So we can start now. Very good. My name is Abdallah Al-Dardari. I am from Syria, but I am here in my capacity as the chief economist of the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia, ESCWA. And I was invited, I had the pleasure of being invited by IFPRI to chair this session, to talk about food security and resilience in the Arab world. And I bet it is not something that comes to your mind immediately when you say the Arab world and the question of food security. But let me say that we have an excellent panel today to discuss this subject. The region has 50 million food-poor people, and that number increased from 30 million in the year 1990. And the region is definitely not a very homogeneous place. It has its sub-regions that are oil exporting with an abundance of financial resources and natural resources. These group of countries are still vulnerable to supply shocks. They might not be very vulnerable to price shocks, but they are certainly vulnerable to supply shocks. And we have middle-income countries that are vulnerable to both supply and price shocks. And we have the least developed countries in the region that are suffering the majority of the food hunger due to supply shocks, price shocks, and conflicts. So the region is very diversified. Most recently, the conflict in Syria has increased the number of people living under the food poverty line from 200,000 people to 4 million people in just 3 years, with the impact that created also for Lebanon and Jordan. In fact, more recently, more drought in Syria is causing more pressure on food prices across the region. And we should never forget that the mismanagement of the drought in 2007-2010 was one of the root causes of the conflict that we witness today in Syria. So the question of food resilience and preparedness is an extremely central question to what we do. This session will cover those topics and more. We will try during this session and beyond to maybe look at the elements of a possible definition of resilience and food security and nutrition security in the Arab world, reflecting the special characteristics of the region.